Our nation is a nation that has been built on immigration and the belief that we are open to people from all over the world. However, that is not always the case. Many people today have very strong stances either for or against immigration, based on either what their community values or what they have been taught to value. People oftentimes only look at select statistics when it comes to immigration. This can be extremely detrimental to our society since people aren't being exposed to both sides of the argument. In order to develop our own beliefs, we need to examine all of the information that is available to us.
According to the article, Immigration to the United States, Recent Trends and Future Prospects by Charles Hirschman, almost 13% of the American population is foreign-born, and if the children of the foreign-born are included, about 1 in 4 Americans can be counted as part of the recent immigrant community. The article then goes on to discuss the positive contributions that immigrants have made and continue to make to the American economy and society today. In an interview with my cooperating teacher, Shauna Cole-Ross, she stressed how teaching about immigration in today's society is more important than ever before. She talked about how the students in her class are seeing immigration being talked about more and more in the world around them due to today's political climate. Oftentimes, students are getting their information about immigration from watching the news on TV, which can be a biased source.
Social studies curriculum requires all schools to teach about immigration. However, according to the article Immigration Beyond Ellis Island, in elementary through high school, most immigration curriculum is being taught through these common lessons: where our forefathers came from, having students interview family members to find out information about their country of origin, and learning about Ellis Island. The one very important thing that is missing from those scenarios is any discussion on current immigration issues. In the article, Hossein shares that she asked her students in a college multicultural education course about their experiences in learning about immigration. She stated that in every semester for the last 12 years, 9 out of 10 students indicated that they learned about immigration, both at the middle and high school levels, through the Ellis Island perspectives without any discussion of current events related to immigration.
However, the way we think about immigration now is completely different from how we talk about it in our school curriculum. Immigration wasn't looked at in the past as heavily as it is today, and because of this, we need to change the way that it is being taught. It no longer makes sense for our curriculum to only discuss immigration through teachings about Ellis Island. Unfortunately, the way immigration is currently, talking about Ellis Island just isn't enough. Depending on school districts, the amount of exposure to the topic of immigration can vary. In some schools, they aren't required to teach it at all. Some only talk about immigration through Ellis Island. This can be a big factor in how students look at and understand the dynamics of immigration and why it's such a large topic today. In order for us to develop authentic beliefs about this topic, we need to look at the history of immigration, the facts that are available, and how it affects our society today.
Throughout our nation's history, we have had our fair share of difficulties when it comes to the topic of immigration. Whether it be currently with the rise in Latinx deportation or further back to our Japanese internment camps, the U.S. has presented itself as a nation that only accepts who they are willing to accept, rather than truly accepting the tired, the poor, and the huddled masses that we promise. If we look at how immigration has evolved throughout our history, we can see that this is an issue that shows no promise of going away. After interviewing one of my former cooperating teachers, Elizabeth Smith, she discussed how our nation has changed its views on who is acceptable to enter our country. It started back in the 1800s with the push to prevent Irish, German, and Chinese immigrants. Those who were accepted faced a tremendous amount of discrimination. There were even laws passed to limit Chinese immigration. During the Great Depression of the 1930s, it was the braceros, a group of Mexican workers who came to America as guest workers who were being deported. Then in the 40s and 50s, Jewish populations were being hit harder than anyone and were not viewed in a positive light in the United States. In an article by Britt Tevez, she discusses the stories of many Jewish immigrants who were viewed as likely to become a public charge, which basically comes down to the fact that this particular immigrant had no money and is likely to either end up in a hospital or jail. Pretty much, if you were an immigrant and you had no money, they could turn you away and just assume you were a bad person, purely based on where you are coming from. This just goes to show that even though the groups of people that have faced discrimination have changed, it seems that the more things change, the more they actually stay the same. There are many reasons as to why these groups have been discriminated against, and it really all boils down to the sense of fear our society has, along with an us versus them mentality.
In an interview with my cooperating teacher, Shauna Koros, she expressed that many of her students' ideas about immigration are centered around the beliefs that have been instilled in them by the community. Since our students' ideas are influenced by what they hear or see being talked about, this might be the only side of immigration that they know. In the article Immigration in the 2016 Election by Jamie Winders, she talks about the statements made by leading politicians saying, "We need real immigration reforms that put the needs of working people first." Statements like this, which are commonly used in communities, not only influence the thoughts of adults, but also children. In today's American society, some people believe that immigrants are responsible for taking jobs that should be provided for native-born Americans.
However, an article by Charles Hirschman explains, although some native-born workers may compete for the same jobs as immigrants, many more may be complements to immigrants. This means that the arrival of unskilled immigrant labor may push up rather than push out many native-born workers. It is important to teach about immigration in a way that presents facts rather than emotions and opinions. We need to make sure that the students are able to construct their own beliefs based on the accurate information presented, rather than following what society wants them to believe.
We know that immigration is important for students to learn, but how should this complex issue be taught in schools? According to Hossein, immigration should be taught in a meaningful and relevant way. Talking with my cooperating teacher, Mrs. Hale, she shared that it is so important for students to learn about immigration because they need to understand the various reasons why people move to other places, whether it be to better their life, to live a safer life, or because of family. She shared that a way to do this is by relating it to students' lives by discussing situations where they or someone they know may have moved around within their own country. Students could discuss the various reasons for why they may have needed to move, which would be a great opportunity for them to relate to the curriculum and use prior knowledge before learning about immigration. Another concept to think about when teaching immigration, according to Hossein, is that students need to have a better understanding of current immigrants and the contemporary immigration process today. To do this, teachers need to compare the past immigrants' experiences through Ellis Island with the immigrants' experiences of today. Finally, one of the most important suggestions for teaching immigration shared in the article is that teachers need to update their own knowledge on the topic before teaching it to their students. If we don't know the facts, how can we teach our students accurate information?
What this shows us is that immigration is ever-changing and that it is not a topic that can simply go away. We as educators need to embrace this fact and find ways to teach the history of immigration in meaningful and relevant ways. We also need to look at biases that our communities may hold and find ways to teach facts rather than emotions and opinions. One thing that we can do is help our students understand that immigration isn't just an issue about other people, it is an issue that affects all of us, because currently our immigration units in elementary schools are lacking in authentic and meaningful instruction.